Alright, what's going on everyone? Supreme Kami over here. So we will be doing the alteration review slash evaluation of all the parts that have came up today pertaining to the Helios kingdoms and then the double Shia Quanta. But before doing that, I do want to let you guys know a little bit of a short notice over here. So people were summoning obviously you can recycle parts to get another one. So there was currently a bug pertaining to the Helios kingdom over here. There's an issue that's been confirmed in which recycling Gundam Helios part made it possible to obtain parts that were planted to be made available as a reward for future events. So that kind of confirms that we will be getting a free-to-play option of the Helios Gundam over here. In terms of like what is the gist of like the free-to-play option, we don't know currently, but that is something I would say is going to be pertaining to like later down the road when we get the gonna break your backlog. I think that can be like a special event that you can do, so we can probably get that, right? So that's all speculation, but we will be confirmed getting that later down the road, so that's something to keep in mind. So if you guys are able to pull multiple part of the Helios Gundam, don't recycle it because you might have a chance of getting the in development stage of the Helios Gundam, so don't do that at the moment. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. So we can just hop over to the alteration page and just kind of quickly talk about these two parts obviously. So before doing that, I do want to give a big shout out to articles from the GNL servers because I went ahead and used it his Excel sheet to kind of precisely pinpoint where exactly rankings in terms of other alteration parts over here. So that's why when you guys are seeing those numbers, like usually I do up to top 20s, but now because I am able to pinpoint them directly, so you can see like maybe ranging from like top 10 all the way down to like even like the top 90-ish over here. So I just want to give you guys a little bit more insight of like where they kind of place and all that good stuff over here, depending on like their melee and shooter capabilities and all that. Even before going into the diving deep into the review, I think two parts you guys need to kind of focus on. Not really focus on, but if possible, when you guys can pull it, it's gonna be the Shia Qan. It's gonna be the arm. That's something you must alterate because of the pure amount of like boosting you can get from the portrait. Next up, we have the Helios ahead. That is another must-have alterate if you guys are able to pull that. I think besides that, the Helios backpack is the EQ. That is something you need to alterate as well, just because of the overall power. We are getting SS minus power as a maximum currently, so that's something you should just kind of keep in mind if you guys are just kind of wondering. But we will be doing the full-on breakdown. Obviously, just doing some stats, talking about the portrait, EX skills, and all that good stuff over here. All right, looking at the double quanta, not double quanta. Well, it is double quanta, but it's going to be the double Shia Quanta. In terms of the overall stat, the melee side of it is going to be obviously fantastic, but the overall gist of the shooter side is not. You're not going to put this on a shooter build, obviously. In terms of the overall stat, it's actually pretty good. Armor is pretty respectable. Melee attack plus that melee defense is going to be top notch. This one is in terms of tech, you're looking at high mobility and high firepower, so they are pushing towards that. I mean, you can't really put any other tech for this unit because it's not protagonist. They can shop this unit and putting it like a for computer because it is in those build fighter series, so they can, if they want to, they can do that. But high mobility is a pretty I wouldn't say the most like relevant trait, but tag, but a lot of people do use it and they can take advantage of it. I think something you kind of keep in mind. So this one is a T-type base Helios as well. If that is something kind of conflict with your build, maybe kind of consider about how to build this and all that. Word tag wise, high mobility and high firepower, that is something you gotta keep in mind. It's just something you can use and all that. Because the portrait is gonna revolve around using high mobility. This is probably the same with the try burning as well, because when we had the try burning, there was some portrait that is pertains to using high mobility. So they are kind of like rolling back a lot of parts having high mobility. So I can see a rise in people using that. So that's pretty good, I guess. Does give you a initial charge boosted by 20%. So that will be a versatile trait. Into the second portrait, your job is loading in is gonna be 10% slower. But in return, you are going to get a melee power boosted by 35%, so that's going to be good. Top notch part over here, obviously, I believe I think we have had a lot of parts recently that have, like those like those ICD boosting. The one I can just probably think of right now is going to be the build project Sengoku Astray Head. I think that has similar property, but this one, first, like compared to that one, this one is going to be 4% less because as a build project, they start out a little bit different in terms of percentage. So that one will have a higher advantage, but this one will be a lot more easier to kind of level up in traits because this one is not a build project, so you can kind of feed in the dupes just relatively easy, right? Moving on to, but it is something you need to alterate. Really depends, like if you can work around the high mobility. If you can, this may be a good option to just kind of backfill your ICD slot and all that. I feel like not high mobility user don't try to force it to, because like if you force a specific tag on your to build, it's not gonna it's not gonna look pretty, right? Because let's be honest, because this game kind of revolves around 3 different tags. If you can fulfill those, obviously good, but if you really work your way around it and happen to lose, if you lose some stats trying to like subslot a good option, let's say high mobility, that is good, but there is a diminishing return of like to a certain a degree of like stat compared to boosting. You may see some discrepancy of like, all right, I am able to do more damage with just pure stats compared to having trade, right? So that's something you kind of keep in mind. Don't try to force attack. That's not not gonna be the most ideal way to do it, right? Obviously, with subslab and big scale alteration, that is possible, but try not to do that anyway, because you do get more stats with like pure sticks, just pairing up with, like the same similar word tag, right? Chess, we do have awakening skills over here. In terms of stats, talk about stat, it's groundbreaking again. I think this is right around the range of like the straight turn red, which is still one of the highest melee stat chess currently, alongside with like the our this week's or our current build project, so same came. They both coming at 6,000, so that's something to keep in mind. There's only 2,000 less, but this one is gonna be a top notch as well if you want to put this. Because of the new update of the skin, you can use this one on your skin, and you can still put this on your main build as a subslot, main part subslot, whatever, and you can still subslot like a parts that have good posture, right? So that's kind of something to keep in mind. So this one, pretty good. So in terms of the EX skill, you do have the quantum burst. So I don't know. I wanted to check if this is similar to the just a double quanta. Recover 58%. Max armor, that is only to yourself, not a squad heal, so keep that in mind. You also get a melee attack up by 29%, and then beam and physical resistance up by 29%. You also get non-flinching, so you will not get knocked back within that set amount period, so that's going to be good. I do want to quickly take a look at double quanta as a reference now. So we're here. Quantum burst over here, I think they are, no, that one will be a little bit better. I think at a point in time, I don't think you need that much health recovery, so getting the Shia Quanta will be a little bit better because it does offer a little bit of a melee attack. In terms of the attack, you're looking at high mobility and for high firepower as well. Just the set alone, I would say this one is a top notch for alteration, but obviously we do have better choices out there already, so just something to keep in mind as well. Like shot wise, not going to be anything too impressive, so this one is going to work on your skin and you just your overall main builds or subslot as well. So pretty good overall. I do kind of like the overall package of this over here, but man, the arm okay, the arm is god tier. This is what makes a new meta, like the second year anniversary, a new meta, because look, just look at this. Look at this craziness. Double 40% boosting. This is the first of a kind. I'm pretty sure later down the road we should be expecting a lot more coming in. So this time around they are only focusing on 2 different parts, the arm and then the head. So why they're doing that? Because on a melee build, the arm is the most crucial part, and then for a shooter part, the head is the most crucial part. That's why they're focusing on those 2. That's why I kind of make it seems like they are like the beginning unit for a new meta, because what they do, because the arm for a melee build and then the head for a shooter build, right? So that kind of makes sense in that respective. So the other part are like the old style. These are like the new styles, 40% boosting. This one is when you are using high firepower. So a lot of people are not really using high powers. If you guys cannot use it, you cannot really take full advantage, right? This one, I would even like, if I'm personally not running, let's say high firepower, I would make myself run high firepower just to take advantage of this 40% boosting. That's how serious this percentage is, right? Because on total you can be getting up to a 80%, right? Compared to the prior Soulcast one. That's what they call it, the super impressive portrait over here, right? Prior ones you're only up to a 65% on total. But even if you take a look at the base level one, you are looking at a 25-25. So the older Sokai parts and the limited parts, you're looking at 17 up top and then 20 at the bottom. So you are looking at a 37 compared to a 50 right out of the bat. So that's why if you have to force high firepower as a tag, force it, because this will make everything worth it. But keep that in mind, you are going to be taking shot attack down by 20%. So I think how they word this one is like, I think it's either you take 20% more shot damage or your shooting damage goes down by 20%. I think it's either or. But if you guys do know in like of the wording, do let me know down in the comment section below. I think that's how it generally is. In terms of the overall tag wise, this can be a little bit more in the gray area because you do have high mobility and high firepower. But what you can always do, you can go over to the primitive side and just pick a big scale alteration that kind of fits the overall just a bit. I think this one does not. But yeah, this one does not. Maybe go with like let's say Barbados. No, not Barbados. I don't. Maybe this one. Yup. This one you can kind of save it. You do have high mobility. If you, for example, want close combat, you can do that. So this one is good. This one will give you a up to a 30.5% self-slot, conversion rate and all that. So this one is good. I believe XCA will work as well. Just a quick check real quick. Yeah, XCA will work probably a little bit better. Just because you get Pro Tag. I feel like Pro Tag is one you need in a melee build. So this one, I feel like XA would be a better sub-slot option. Alright, moving on to the leg. So obviously we have the arm. Please alterate it at all costs. So alright, moving on to the leg. This one is gonna be a little bit better. Because when I was doing the swimsuit girl summoning video, I was also doing just the overall breakdown of like the other banner. The step up banner. So I would say the double quanta leg is actually good, but this one kind of replaces it. This one has, I believe, around 500 melee attack higher, like combining with like the change gears and all that, right? That one is better, but the trait on that one I feel like is slightly better than this one because you do have Gundam type, which is not the most ideal for like a melee build, so you are gonna have to do some sub-slot work on that. But in terms, I mean, let me take that back actually, because what we're looking at over here is a double EXQ boosting. So double EXQ does not discriminate between a melee or a shot or a shooter. You can self-slot this into a either or. That's how this is why it's better. So in return, your melee slash your normal shooting will not do any good damage because this is pertaining to only doing EXQ damage. But I feel like 99% of the time you will be doing some EXQ, activating some, so I feel like this doesn't really matter. There is going to be two conditions. You are having to use a technique attribute, so that's one thing, and you have to be using a saber category. Unfortunately for myself, I won't be able to use this portrait because I am blocked to using a last category because of the commerce with our amazing portrait chest. So that's something I'm gonna lose out over here. But all in all, this one will fit perfectly fine on a melee slash shooter. But for a shooter, this one will act as a sub-slot purposes because of the low amount of like shot attack. But don't let just the overall flat stat trick you, because the portrait over here is gonna be excellent. This one is a universal boosting over here, so that's gonna be good. So that's kind of something to keep in mind as well. So let me add that onto the list. The arm and the leg is something to kind of focus on it in a way if you guys do need some option for those specific parts, right? Moving on to the backpack, the arm is continue the trend of a pretty good, melee attack, like with the conversion gear and all that. 5,600 is a pretty respectable amount for a melee build because we have not seen anything closing into a 6k digits for a melee part yet, so that's good. So we do have a lot more room to kind of improve a little bit. In terms of this one over here, I would say you can run this on your skin or on your main build slash or sub slot, however you want. As for a sub slot, you are gonna have to put in something that will kind of give you some good portrait. The one I'll always recommend just because it's a quote unquote more or less like a easier to obtain. It's gonna be the Age Titus backpack because that one comes with a pretty good double portrait. So that was something that everyone can kind of take advantage of, right? So that's something I'm gonna recommend. Obviously, there are a lot more choices, but it will really depends on what your build is. Obviously, there's so many build options out there, so I can't just kind of recommend like, oh, this one is that, right? But the one I can kind of think on top of my head right now is gonna be the unicorn uh, luminous crystal body version. Because that one comes with a, I believe, does have a initial cooldown boosting, and that also does have some boosting if you are some EXP boosting when you are using beam related EXP, right? So that's something I can think up on top of my head. But overall, this one does deserve alteration because the overall stats and all that pretty good. I did test out the EX skill myself, and it looks pretty good. You are looking at A plus pure, so that is good. A plus pure is gonna melt down any defensive units out there, so this one's gonna be good. A plus power, also nice as well. In terms of some other effects, you are gonna get this one. You can treat this as like a pseudo EX skills, a custom EX skill. Because you are gonna get this down below effects over here. Also gonna raise your squad and melee attack up by 39%, so that's always a good effect to have. Also gonna boost a shot defense up by 19%, and just a little bit of a jester, but all in all, pretty good. Alright, moving on to the last weapon over here, we have the GN sword over here. So this one actually is gonna be ranked number 2 in terms of like the overall stat over here, pretty good. In terms of the portrait over here, so you have one of these over here, so this is more of like a reducing an enemy type and then increasing your own type over here. So this one does want you to use a high mobility as well. So if you can fulfill this one can be good. Or if you want some other option like some strictly power boosting, I don't think this one will be your take and all that. But the overall stat is pretty impressive. I believe this one you can actually even subslot this one to, let's say, the big scale Ixia. I think that will work pretty good hand to hand. Let me just take a look. Not this one then. I don't think. Yeah, this one's not gonna be it. What about this one? High mobility. Does that one have high mobility? I think it does, right? Let me check one more time. I kind of forgot. I forgot the tags already. Excuse me. Yeah, that'll work. The wing Gundam beam saber will kind of work just for subslot options and all that. So pretty good all in all. Like I am really satisfied with how they kind of built out the Shia Qan over here. The arm and the leg. The arm is gonna be the priority. The leg can be like a second option, and then maybe the head can be a third option and all that. Alright, so actually I am gonna put the double Shia Quanta review and the Helios on a different video because it will be a lot more easier or just a lot more faster for me to render out the video so I can get that out first. So up next, like right after this, it will be the Gundam Helios review as well. So just keep that in mind. So with that being said, this will be it for this one part of it. Up next will be the Gundam Helios review / evaluation.